It's morning. We start with a happy family of Edward, Connie, and son Charlie. We see Edward taking Charlie to school. Connie also left. The weather was bad outside, the wind was browning so much. Connie even fell and got hurt on her knees calling for a taxi. The thing started getting worse. She fell again on a young man who was carrying books. She asked him to help her and call a taxi for her, but no taxi was ready to stop. He was going up to his apartment and he asked her to join him and get her a bandage. She agreed and went to the bathroom to clean herself. He said the apartment wasn't his, it belongs to a friend who lives in Paris. He stays in an apartment with his books and is a book dealer. Connie asked him for a phone. She called Gloria to know who Charlie was doing. He brought ice while Connie was still on phone. He introduced himself as Paul Martel. She said she is Constance. Paul showed her a book and asked her to read it after she left. At home, Charlie brought a camera to capture his mom's wound for a school blood practical. Charlie was happy about the pictures and showed them to Edward. Connie told Edward about Paul who helped her. Edward said jokingly to send a cheap wine to Paul and they laughed. At night, Edward was trying to learn camera and shoot, playing with Connie and telling her how beautiful she is. In the morning when Edward and Charlie left, Connie checked in coat and saw the card Paul gave her. She called to thank him. Connie asked Paul for the address, but he said she should come by herself.
Hello. You're there.
And she agreed. Connie went there. Paul asked her whether she would want to remove her coat and he romantically looked at her. He touched her hand and read her a book after she left. On her way, she decided to surprise Edward by going to his office and bringing him a shirt. Edward wore it happily. They hugged each other and left. Connie went back to Paul's apartment. They danced romantically. While dancing, Connie thought it was a mistake to be there. She left out immediately but forgot her coat. She came back for it. Paul carried her immediately and trained her way back home. She never stopped thinking about her affair with Paul. From the office, Edward was jazzing with Bob about Charlie's school auction, but Connie didn't tell him about it and he was surprised. At night, Edward felt uneasy and asked Connie whether she loves him and she said yes. With time, Connie started being on phone with Paul most of the time and read the books she got from Paul. We see Edward spend time with his son while Connie spends it with Paul. She started thinking about Paul. They had affairs anytime they want. They went out for lunch, but Connie was shy about it. Paul was happy and kissed her publicly, though the bill was in the same restaurant. Paul drew an arrow on Connie's thigh when Connie was asleep, trying to remove it so that Edward doesn't see it. Connie was in the bath tap and Edward asked her to join her. He wanted to have an affair, but Connie was feeling uncomfortable. She asked him to go to bed as she was feeling cold, and she left and Edward felt bad. In the morning, Edward asked Connie to have lunch together, but Connie told him she have a fundraiser staff thing to pick from. He told her that I can do it early, about midnight. Connie said she wouldn't be hungry at noon. Edward saw a nice dress and shoes she prepared to wear and asked her they go together. She said she just remembered she have a facial at 12:30 at Georgiana's, and Edward left. At the office, Edward called Georgian's salon to confirm Connie's appointment, but wasn't true. On her way to Paul, she met Tracy and her friend who worked for Planned Parenthood and asked her to have lunch together. In the restaurant, he left Tracy and their friend eating. She called Paul to wait for her, but Paul decided to come to join them in a restaurant. Paul walked directly to the washroom. Connie followed him and had an affair. Later, she joined Tracy and her friend and they were talking about how hot Paul was. In the evening, they met again and Connie said that they should end it. Paul refused it and Connie don't want to end it. They had an affair again. At the factory, Edward looked disturbed that he had Bill talking to Dunbar and Brinks and other companies, and he said to a Bill that is not loyal and fired him. Bill told him that if he's talking about loyalty, he has to first take a look at his family. Edward felt it inside. Then he called his old friend Frank and asked him to follow his wife.
I want you to follow my wife.
At home, Connie was cooking and she looked to be in thoughts. Even the food burnt. Edward reacted normal and he said had a flight to Chicago. Connie asked him how long has he going to be there. Edward said that it was only one night. Edward went on a business trip while Connie went to have an affair with Paul. They had a lot of fun while Frank was capturing everything. At home, Gloria and Charlie were outside waiting for Connie. Frank showed Edward the pictures of his wife with Paul. Meanwhile, Paul does not pick up Connie's calls. Connie felt bad and stressed about it. She drove to look for Paul. She saw Paul with another woman. She followed them fighting a woman. Then Paul calmed her that she's just a friend. They had an affair. Edward went to Paul's apartment. He introduced himself and asked Paul to offer him a drink. He asked him how he met his wife and how they do it and where. Paul answered it all. Edward saw a snow glass he brought to his wife. Edward asked Paul how the snow glass reached his apartment. Paul said that it was a gift from Connie. Edward cried and hit Paul on the head with the snow glass, and he died. He sent a mail to Connie from Paul's landline. Then a message came from Connie to Paul saying that it was over between them. She was tired of lying and hurting her family. Edward cleaned everything and tied Paul's body to the carpet and carried him to his car boot. He cleaned himself and joined his wife at Charlie's school auction. Connie seemed happy to see her son performing, but Edward wasn't okay about what happened earlier. At night when Connie was asleep, Edward drove Paul's body to the dumping ground. In the morning, Edward asked Connie whether they should move to the city or not. Edward started feeling disturbed by the killing of Paul. A cop came to their house and asked Connie about Paul's missing, that his family was looking for him and he was married while Charlie was peeping. Charlie told Edward about it. Connie said they came to ask about somebody who was missing and she forgot where she met him. The cops came back again to tell them that they found the body. I asked Connie questions about Paul, but she kept saying that she can't recall where she met him. She went to collect her suit but found the pictures of her and Paul. She got scared. Things started getting worse when she saw the snow glass in Edward's office meeting. That's the time she got to know who killed Paul. At night, Connie asked Edward whether he killed Paul, but Edward was furious about her cheating. He said he didn't intend to kill her but to kill Connie. He cried as he loved his wife so much. They decided to stay like a happy family. Connie burnt all the pictures of her and Paul. Guilty, Edward said he gonna turn himself in, but Connie won't let him, that they should let it be, no one will know. Time was moving. They decided to sell everything and disappear from a country to Mexico, and they changed their identities.